the body is the most powerful healing force ever. If all businesses in the world ran as amazingly as the human body, we would be in. As soon as you show your mind this, your mind will naturally correct itself. And the next time that unproductive thought pops up, subconsciously your mind will go, oh, yeah, we already established that's not valuable. We already established that's unproductive. We already established that thought's not going to help me. So we're going to focus on this thought, right? If the body can heal itself, the mind can heal itself, right? Because hello, friend. Welcome to another episode of the Bill Hauser podcast. And today we're going to talk about the fact that your body already has everything inside it to heal itself. And I've gone through a recent kind of regenerative health epiphany, and the lessons from this can be applied to life, business. I'll give you a little bit of kind of a lead-in to why this is so important to me right now to talk about it during the podcast, where I usually talk about business topics. I'm having to kind of take a little bit of a detour here because if you know anything about my story, I've been through a ton of injuries. I grew up racing dirt bikes, and not just dirt bikes. I mean, I also, did extreme sports like snowboarding. When I was a young kid, believe it or not, I actually qualified for the Mountain Dew Action Sports Tour on a snowboard when I was like 14 years old in slalom, which is like downhill, high speed snowboard racing. And so I've always done extreme sports my entire life. I broke my wrist on a snowboard. I've had multiple injuries on my BMX bike. I'm the kind of guy on a mountain bike or BMX bike that I just like hitting big jumps and going really fast on stuff. I also tried sports. I did skateboarding for a really long time. I did, technical BMX kind of, technical, I mean, like when you go to skate parks and you see people that have like pegs on their bikes and they can do like specific types of grinds. Grind meaning they can like, jump up on a ledge and like, place their pegs in specific, sequences. And I was never really good at the super technical stuff, but I was always really good at big open spaces, big jumps, high speed. And that's why I've thrived, in snowboarding. Mountain biking is a kind of, I call these sports of approximations, right? Extreme sports of approximations. And, through doing that, I've had a lot of injuries. I've broken over a dozen separate bones, probably closer to 20 different bones. I've torn both my ACLs. I've had reconstructive knee surgery on my right knee, on my left knee 2 times. When I was in high school, I had an external fixator on my knee, on my left knee. I think I was maybe 14 years old, or actually that was middle school. When I was in middle school, I had a external fixator, basically a halo around my left knee, and you could see basically pins that, I had to get surgery to correct the alignment of my left leg, because when I was 14, I broke my left leg, and I actually broke my growth plate. So I broke the growth plate on the left side of my left leg, and the right side didn't break. So I hit a growth spurt when I was 14 after this injury, and my leg actually bowed out sideways. So they had to go back in after I healed from this injury, re-break my leg, put screws in the bottom of my leg and in my knee joint. They had I had to basically turn an Allen key every single day, a little screw thing in my leg 3 times a day, which gently over the course of 4 months or so straightened my leg out. And bone would fill in every day as I would gently, correct my leg to be straight, which not only lengthened my leg but also corrected it with with it bowing out. So I've broken both collarbones. I've had AC joint sprains. I've broke my scapula. I broke a vertebrae in my back. I've you know uh, I've had I was diagnosed with sacroiliitis, which is inflammation of the SI joint, sacro joint in your lower back. When I was, I think, 17 years old, I was formally diagnosed with arthritis from a doctor. Um, Went through a whole series of tests. I came into his office when I was 17. I was limping on both legs, not legs. I was really limping because my hips were so locked up. And this put me on a trajectory to really figuring out how to reverse what other people would call permanent injuries. So I've been obsessed with this for over, gosh, I didn't really start doing it until I was 20, so I'm 33 now. So for the last 13 years, I've been trying to learn how to reverse injuries that other people would call are permanent injuries. And I actually have, and it's been a really powerful journey. Most of my methods, for example, when I had the lower back pain, which a lot of people in society struggle with lower back pain. I think it's one of the most common musculoskeletal uh, uh, abnormalities for people is to have lower back pain. I basically started researching. Now, this is before ChatGPT existed, but this is all my own manual research and, seeking coaches and advisors and fitness trainers to teach me how do I open up the SI joint, which is basically a part of the lower back. So I had to start doing tons of wacky stretches, learned about the pigeon pose, learned about the cat-cow pose, basically ended up concocting my own 21 stretch routine, which I've done almost every week for the last 10 years or so. I kind of picked this up once I started picking up meditation. And over time, over the course of a few months of doing this, I'm really loosening my muscles around the lower back area and my knees and, every muscle group in my legs. I reversed all of these symptoms that I was feeling in my SI joint, the sacroiliac joint, lower back, because I loosened all the muscles around that joint. Oftentimes, what the medical system misses, I learned, is they treat the direct symptom, right? So if your lower back's hurting, they give you something to fix the lower back pain, right? Or worst of all, like a painkiller, right? And 90% of pain that you feel is due to the surrounding tissues around the place where you're feeling the pain. It's not always the place where you're feeling the pain that's causing the pain, right? Similar to people who have nutrient deficiencies, which there's been some crazy studies on this. People who have suffered from hypertension, high blood pressure for their entire life. I mean, there's literally people. If you go to the traditional medical system, they're going to tell you, oh, you need to take, blood pressure medication, right? And again, that's treating the immediate symptom. That's not treating the root cause. But most people who have hypertension, and, this is what I've learned from, a lot of my own research, they actually just have a nutrient deficiency or a nutrient absorption deficiency. And by treating the root absorption or nutrient deficiency, you're actually able to have your body re-regulate itself, right? And the really powerful thing about nutrients is no nutrient that the human body takes in is used in the state that it was in when you ate it, right? So if I eat vitamin C, the state that vitamin C is in when I eat it is not the state that it is in when it gets used by my body, right? So all nutrients that we take in through our mouth, right? All nutrients that we take in have to be broken down and then redistributed through the body in a way that the body can absorb it, right? So oftentimes people who have nutrient deficiencies, either A, they're not getting enough nutrients, right, in certain areas, specific vitamins. There's a lot of people who are, vitamin B deficient, stuff like this. So some people actually aren't getting the vitamins in their mouth, meaning they're not taking a multivitamin, they're not eating foods that contain these vitamins or minerals that they're deficient on. That's one part of the problem, but a much bigger problem that most people have found is that their body, yeah, you may be getting vitamin C or vitamin D or vitamin B in your body, but some people's bodies can't break these compounds down as good as others, right? And that's what creates a deficiency, right? When your body can't break down specific vitamins, minerals, nutrients into the form that your body can actually use them, right? And it's really sad because as I've learned so much about, this whole world of, I guess you'll call it like alternative health, people struggle and suffer their entire lives from situations and deficiencies and even arthritis and issues, which I'll get to in a second. My specific alternative health journey most recently. But people will struggle their whole life, okay, with low energy, wondering why they can't focus, wondering why all these things that seem like ailments and things they're doomed with for the rest of their life. And if you go to the traditional medical system, they're going to try to treat the symptom. They're not going to try to treat the root cause in most cases. And it's really, really sad, and it's heartbreaking. And if we just trust that the body is the most powerful healing force ever, it is like, just if you think about all the things your body does for you unconsciously, it is the most well-run business in the world, the human body. I mean, if all businesses in the world ran as amazingly as the human body, we would be in the most crazy economy we've ever seen perpetually into eternity. I mean, because the human body runs better than anything ever found on Earth. And by just letting the human body access its own healing powers, it's often more powerful than giving yourself external things to try and treat a symptom, right? My wife went through this, and it was really debilitating for us. She went through a very bad mold illness, and we went to she went to over a dozen traditional physicians. They tested her blood, they tested everything, and everyone came back and said, "Oh, well, it's postpartum," because she had our kid at the time that we were testing this. Oh, it's postpartum. It's postpartum. It's postpartum. She just knew it was not postpartum. She starts going to alternative health experts after seeing all the traditional people. She gets all these different tests done and realizes that the microtoxins in her body and mold spores, that she has this specific gene that nobody in the traditional medical system even talks about. And she suffered with this for basically a year of her life. And then she goes through ozone therapy, which is something that the traditional medical system doesn't recommend in most cases. Ozone therapy to basically cleanse her blood from toxins. She had to go through all of these alternative health measures, and now she's 95% recovered from something that the traditional medical system failed her on, right? And so alternative health is definitely picking up a ton of momentum and steam, but it's still not supported by most insurance. It's still not supported by most of the traditional medical approaches, and it's heartbreaking and sad. So I'll give you an example for myself. With all the injuries that I've had, one of the challenging things that I've been experiencing is my knee, specifically my right knee, for the last year and a half, 2 years, has just been getting inflamed. I had my ACL done on my right knee, and it felt like, I went to traditional doctors, um, and most of the traditional doctors just said, "Oh, you got to take it easy. You just got to take it easy for the rest of your life on this knee," right? But I can't do that because the things I enjoy doing are high impact sports, right? High impact extreme sports. So, am I just going to give up what I love because I need to take it easy on my knee for the rest of my life, or am I going to find a different approach, right? So, I started uploading my MRI reports into ChatGPT. So I uploaded every single MRI, all the physician's notes I've ever gotten on both of my knees, because I've had injuries to both my knees, and I uploaded it in the ChatGPT, and I basically asked it to take an alternative health approach to healing both of my knees, right? Um, and it gave me amazing answers. It gave me a completely different approach to look at how to reduce inflammation in the knee and how to create a healing environment for the knee. Because what really is causing the inflammation in my knee is I have a little ding in my cartilage. It's called your OCD, which is a chondral defect, which basically means that in the cartilage on top of the bone, there's a little divot from a bone bruise that I had before, for a very high impact time that my leg slammed the ground. Um, my leg slammed the ground and it left a little divot in my cartilage in my knee, right? Now, on top of this, I've had my parts of my meniscus removed, and obviously I've had my ACL replaced as well. So there's been a lot of trauma to this knee. And what happens as a result of the trauma to the knee is what's called synovitis, which is basically um, inflammation of the synovial lining, which is like the inner joint lining. I didn't know any of this crap until I started ChatGPTing this, right? And I realized that, through looking at an alternative health lens, right? Um, there was a completely different way to go about reducing inflammation by letting the body heal the inflammation naturally instead of me doing things like steroid injections, which I did before. And steroid injections worked. They reduced my inflammation. But here's the problem with steroid injections, right? Which a lot of people get steroid injections in their knees, shoulders, etc. The problem is steroids shut off your body's ability to heal, right? And as a result of shutting off your body's ability to heal, steroid injections basically reduce inflammation by shutting off all the healing signals in your body. But inflammation is actually a good thing, right? So by using steroids in a joint, you tell your body, hey, don't heal this area at all. But also, as a result of not healing this area of the body at all, it also is going to reduce the amount of fluid in that joint, therefore the swelling reduces. So it's a very, like, using steroid shots in your knee or in any joint that you're experiencing pain in, it works to reduce symptoms, but it doesn't heal the underlying cause, right? Which again brings us back to like what the traditional medical system pushes is all this symptom relief stuff, right? So I tried everything. I tried changing my exercise routines. I did the steroid shot. As soon as the steroid shot wore off, my knee started swelling again. So then, my physician, who I love, the guy, his name's Dr. Nick Danubli, and one of the best ACL knee surgeons, orthopedic surgeons in the United States. He's actually close friends with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and great, great, great surgeon. He was the only person that ever worked on any of my knees or any of my joints that said I needed to consider PRP, which stands for platelet-rich plasma, and it's a form of regenerative medicine. So he tells me this months ago, right? He tells me he doesn't want to go into my knee. He doesn't want to go clean out the knee at all and do, kind of put a scope in there and clean it out. He doesn't want to touch the knee anymore, right? Where 99% of other doctors would have said the opposite, right? So he said he didn't want to touch the knee. He said, I need to try regenerative health, PRP, right? So I put this in the back of my mind. I push it off for a few months. And then I'm like, you know what? what do I have to lose here, right? So I go to an alternative health place here in the Philadelphia area. They scan my knee, and they basically say the same thing that this good physician, Dr. Nick, that I work with, said, is that I need to get PRP, right? And they prescribed me these peptides, right? Now I had no idea what peptides are, and I was so scared to use them that they actually sat in my refrigerator for like, I don't even know, 2 or 3 months, right? They got shipped to my office here, and we just kept them in the refrigerator for months because you have to inject this stuff into your body, right? So that was scary for me. So I just kind of pushed it off. I never opened it. I left it in the fridge. And then one day, I see the box in the fridge, and I'm like, screw it. I'm gonna figure out how to use peptides, right? And they gave me these peptides as a precursor for me to use before I do PRP. So I bring these peptides home, and the peptide is called BPC 157. And BPC 157 is basically, I believe it's from like stomach tissue, and it creates these healing factors that naturally reduce inflammation and create a healing environment in any joint, right? I start doing some research on this, and I'm like, holy crap, is this like the secret pill of like the medical world that nobody's talking about? Turns out it is. I mean, it is crazy. People who have had lower back pain their entire life, people who have had multiple surgeries in areas of their body, people who have tried everything for over a decade of their life, and then they use peptides for the first time, and within 1 to 2 weeks, all their pain is gone, basically permanently. Not only is it gone, but tissue actually starts healing, right? So it's different than a steroid, whereas steroids shut down healing signals and peptides actually increase healing signals and reduce inflammation, right? So you get double the impact when you use something like a peptide. Okay. So I look up all this stuff. I'm like, this is too good to be true. So I do my first injection in my knee, right? And of course, nothing happens, right? So I wait 24 hours. I'm like, all right, yeah, this doesn't really feel that crazy. I do a second peptide injection because they say to do it either every day at 0.25 ml or every other day at 0.5 ml. So I did every other day 0.5 ml. And I do my second injection, I think it was 2 days later. And I wait another 24 hours, and 20% of my knee inflammation is gone. I'm like, that's odd. Maybe it's because I just haven't been tough on my knee for the last, couple days. I was doing low impact exercise. I thought it was a separate effect. Then I have this big race on my dirt bike, right? Actually, it wasn't a race. It was a training in South Carolina. Rode both days, super intense, super high impact, overshot jumps, came up short on jumps, so very high impact stuff on my knees, right? I come back, usually my knee would be kind of a little inflamed for 48 hours after a weekend like that. I do a peptide shot right after, my knee doesn't inflame at all. It stays 20% lower. I do my fourth peptide shot, and my knee goes from 20% reduction to 40% reduction. I continue this for 2 weeks, and by the end of 2 weeks, 70% of the inflammation in my knee joint is completely gone. And I didn't remove any fluid. I didn't get my knee drained. I didn't get fluid removed. It's because how the peptides work is it naturally reduces fluid and inflammation in a joint and creates that healing environment, right? So I am like absolutely dumbfounded. I've tried everything for 2 years to reduce this inflammation in the knee. I've had it drained. It's steroid shot, blah, 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 blah. And this is the first time I'm feeling like not only my knee inflammation went down without removing fluid, but that it felt like, literally, it felt like my knee was healing. I felt like this vibration in my knee that was like raising the stimuli in my knee to like fix some of this damaged tissue in my knee, right? So fast forward, this is just a couple days ago. I think it was 2 days ago now. I end up getting my first PRP shots, right? So I did 2 weeks of peptides in my knees, right? I see this amazing improvement. And now just a couple days ago, I did my first PRP shots, which stands for platelet-rich plasma, right? This is what my original surgeon recommended, who did the ACL on my right knee. Again, the only person who ever in the traditional medical system that recommended regenerative health to me. And it's been like 2 days, and my knee already feels like it is in a better position than it's been in the last 2 years just from this PRP treatment, and it's only been 2 days. It's like unbelievable, right? So PRP, so peptides is this compound that you can buy peptides online. You can do injectable peptides or you can do oral peptides. So, and there's basically 3 types of peptides that I'm aware of, especially in BPC 157. There's powder form, so you can buy the powder, then you mix it with what's called bacteriostatic water, which basically bacteria killing water. So you mix the powder with the bacteriostatic water, you put it in a vial, and then you just kind of keep it refrigerated, and you try to use it within a month or so. So that it doesn't get old. You just keep it refrigerated. It's really that simple. So that's option 1. The second option is like medical grade, which is pre-mixed. That's super expensive. So like a 10 ml vial of the powder you can get for like, I don't know, maybe $80 or so. A 10 mLs of medical grade is like $600, right? So it's super expensive. And it comes pre-mixed, pre-refrigerated, etc. And those are both the injectable form. You have to get comfortable with needles, which I certainly wasn't when I started this. You have to get comfortable with small little needles. You inject it out, you sanitize the area, and you inject it in the joint, or the area around the joint. Or you can do it subcutaneous, right? So you can just like pinch your stomach fat and you can put it in there, and then that distributes systemically throughout the whole body. But typically, the closer that you can inject it under your skin, the closer you can inject it to the joint that's causing you pain, the more of it gets into that joint area, right? So if my knee is in pain and I inject it in my upper arm, less of it's going to get into my knee. But if I inject it right above my knee capsule, right, then more of it's going to go into my knee capsule. Still, some of it's going to distribute throughout the body, but most of it's going to go to the knee capsule if I do it close to there, right? So you want to inject it close to that area. And so those are the injectable peptides. And then there's also oral, like peptide pills that you can take, right? And there's BPC 157. I think there's something called TB 500. It seems like the best mix is both TB 500 and BPC 157. Again, I'm not a doctor, not a medical expert, so this is not medical advice at all. But do your own research on this. ChatGPT is a great medical researcher if you want to look at your own plan for this. But I promise you, if you find a way to use these peptides in any joint that you're experiencing pain, for me, I promise you, I've seen the greatest impact I've ever seen in the 100+ things I've tried for my knees. So PRP, so that's peptides. It's like this compound that exists in like gut and whatever, and has all these healing compounds in it. You can do your research on it. PRP, platelet-rich plasma, actually comes from your own blood. So when I did my appointment last week, I sat down. They pulled out a big vial, 2 big vials of blood, because I did it in both my knees. Big vials of blood. They put it in this mixer machine that basically pulls out all the white stuff in your blood, the healing platelets, plasma, growth factors. So basically, once your blood gets mixed through the machine that they have, it's not red anymore. It only keeps like the white stuff in your blood, is the best way I can put it. So it doesn't look like your blood anymore when they inject it into your knee. So basically, they cleanse your blood, they pull out all the growth factors, white blood cells. Again, I'm not an expert in this, but I just got to see it happen a few days ago. and then they inject this cleansed version of your blood into the joint that's experiencing pain, right? And what happens is most the main reason that most parts of the human body don't heal is it doesn't get blood flow, right? So for example, like most if you've ever heard of like an ACL injury, most ACLs, 99% of them don't heal on their own. Why? There's no blood flow in the middle of your knee, right? There's just this dead synovial fluid in the middle of your knee, right? So blood flow is what allows parts of your body to heal, right? High blood flow areas are going to always heal faster than low blood flow areas, whether that's tissue, bone, etc., right? So blood flow is a big correlation to healing, right? So if you injure a part of your body that has low blood flow, it's very, very unlikely that it's going to heal. Like rotator cuffs are another great example of this. Low blood flow. I don't know if it's a ligament or a tendon. I'm not, again, an expert in that stuff. But any area where you have a persistent injury that doesn't heal, it's typically, not all the time, a low blood flow area, right? So by putting just the healing factors of your blood into something like your knee joint, as an example, it creates that healing environment. It almost simulates as though the inner knee joint is a high blood flow area, which it isn't, but it simulates that for a short period of time, which sends all these signals to your body that alert, hey, there's high blood flow to this area, right? Which is why, like, when you have a cut, it bleeds, right? Blood flow goes to the area where, you've cut yourself, and that's how healing begins, right? Then it turns into a scab, etc. Well, that same kind of thing happens when you use something like PRP in an injured knee or injured shoulder or injured back, right? It temporarily inflames it, right? Because of the high blood flow. It tells your body, alert, something's wrong here. A ton of blood all of a sudden is in this area. That tells your body, that signals your immune system, that signals your body to go, hey, let's heal this area, right? So it sends even more healing and growth factors to that area of your body, and it starts a regeneration process, right? So this is why it's called regenerative medicine, right? And the beautiful thing, the best things in regenerative medicine are the things that come from your own body, right? I'm not using any external compound, right? There are peptides in our stomach gut, right? There are PRP comes from our own blood, so we're using our own body to heal our own body just by redistributing parts of our body that otherwise don't get in the specific areas. We're just redistributing the wealth, basically, of the healing factors that already exist in our body, right? And this is what, PRP and peptides are two things that have been, based on what I've seen, the medical research, and you can look this up yourself, show me medical research on these things, you can see the correlations of results that people have experienced on both PRP and peptides, right? The third level of regenerative medicine is stem cells, right? And stem cells work best based on what I've learned in this process, in tandem with PRP, right? In tandem with peptides. So the dream scenario is to have all three of these things healing parts of your body, right? So you have peptides to reduce the inflammation, create a healing environment. You have PRP to basically amp up that healing environment intensely with the simulation of blood flow to that area, quote unquote. And then you have stem cells, which are undifferentiated cells that once that healing environment is created within that part of your body, right? Once that healing environment is triggered, then the stem cells can then differentiate into new tissue, right? So let's say you do a PRP shot today, right, in a joint in your body. Then you do stem cells a month later in that same part of your body, right? Well, the PRP starts creating this healing environment, right? And once the healing environment is created, you then introduce some stem cells, which gives your body just a couple more cells. I mean, it's really like over 1 billion, stem cells in these, sometimes 5 billion stem cells that get injected into a joint on average. And these stem cells, once the healing signals have been triggered in the joint, it's like these cells can basically go and find a part of the knee to basically fill in, right? So let's say that there's parts of your cartilage that needs to be filled in. Well, that growth environment, that healing environment's been triggered, and then the stem cell kind of just goes to where the body is saying, "Hey, we need more help in this area." So the stem cells go there, and that's how tissue regeneration can happen. So if you follow a practice like this, I've seen, my coach Dan Sullivan, strategic coach, he's literally rebuilt his entire meniscus. I think he's like 80 years old, right? Now he went down to Argentina to do this. I believe he did what's called biomaterial scaffolding on his knee, where they basically create this scaffold that forces the stem cells to into a specific area to rebuild your meniscus. But I saw the before and afters he showed at one of our workshops, and it was insane. His meniscus increased in size in just a couple of years, 10x. It went from bone on bone, a little thin layer of meniscus, to 10 times thicker, right, in just a couple of years. Now, doing biomaterial scaffolding is way more expensive. It's way more edgy. You're going to probably have to go out of the country if you're in the United States to do stuff like that. So for most people, doing stem cell treatment is, it's better to just do like the general version of it, because it's more affordable, it's more accessible. And then you have many different types of stem cells, right? You have umbilical cord stem cells, you have amniotic fluid stem cells, you have which would be, from others, from other people, or you have, stem cells that you can get from yourself, from your own bone marrow, where they take some bone marrow out, I believe, from your hip, or they can take it from your fat, and they can turn it, basically extract stem cells from your own body, or you can get it from, donated umbilical cord tissue, right, or amniotic fluid. The big factor that I've found in stem cells is that you want to make sure that the stem cells you get have a high percentage of alive stem cells. Because if the stem cells are dead when you get them, it's harder for them to differentiate. It's almost impossible for them to differentiate to rebuild parts of tissue. So if you look at like the prove it scale, what's been most proven, you'd say PRP is probably first, peptides probably second, and stem cells is probably third. But when you look at like breakthrough stories that I've seen like examples of, typically all three of these things were used, right? And it's just because of how these three things kind of work together. And for me, this process, first of all, what my wife went through in kind of detoxifying her body, struggling with the traditional medical system for a year, and then getting 95% cured through an alternative health regenerative approach, right? Me experiencing these crazy improvements in symptoms from things that the traditional medical system, except for one person, never told me about, right? It is so exciting. We are in such an exciting time. I remember when I read Tony Robbins' book. He has a book called Life Force. It's huge. It's way too long of a book, which a lot of his books are. And this is where I first learned about the power of regenerative health. Highly recommend that book. It'll kind of sell you on the concept of and the power of stem cells, in addition to all these other regenerative health mechanisms that he's used on himself, that he's had chronic pain and got rid of that pain by letting the body regenerate itself. And my big takeaway from all of this is, how cool is it to know that the body has within itself the ability to heal itself, right? And if we take this principle and we apply it to, life, business, our own struggles in our life, I think it's a really empowering belief shift to know that if the body can heal its own ailments, using regenerative methods, right? Using its own stuff to regenerate its own stuff. How much more trust does that give you in your ability to heal yourself in areas outside of your physical health, right? Like, imagine you're going through, you know, a really difficult breakup, or imagine you're going through some struggles in your business or financial struggles, right? How much of the answers to solving problems like this that aren't physical problems, how much of these answers already exist within your body, your mind, right? And I think the big lesson that I'm kind of reflecting on as I'm going through this health transformation is how many answers has my body, my mind been trying to give me that I've been insensitive to, that I've been just not listening to. And I've been seeking answers outside of myself rather than within myself, right? And this brings me back to the power of mindfulness, right? Like, whenever I get off track in my life, the first thing I try to go back to is mindfulness. I'm one long meditation session away from healing any psychological issue I have, right? And that's just from my years and years and years of doing meditation and mindfulness. And in order for the body to trigger a healing process, you first have to know what to heal, right? And if we take this principle and we apply it to psychological, or financial issues or other issues in our life or business, right? First, we have to know what the problem is in order to direct the body and the mind to solve the problem, right? If you are not problem aware, if you don't know what your problem is, it's hard to have your body naturally correct that problem, right? And I look at the equivalent to kind of like PRP as an example, where you basically inject all this blood into a joint, all the cleansed blood into a joint or a part of the body, and it triggers this inflammation response and this healing response, right? How often do we do that in our own lives? How often do we become aware of what our core problem is, right? So how do you do that? Well, you do that through mindfulness. You do that by shutting your eyes, getting into a meditative place and allowing your thoughts to kind of direct you to what the problem is or what the perceived problem is, right? And as you become more and more aware of like what's the actual problem, right? The beautiful thing that I've learned in my own struggles with anxiety and other issues is that as soon as you become aware of a irrational thought or a irrational thinking pattern, and you've identified the irrationality of it, as long as you don't resist the irrationality, your body will naturally cleanse of it, right? It is like so beautiful that the body can do this. Like, example, like if I still had public speaking fear, right? I would reflect on it. I would close my eyes and I would allow any thought to pop up around my public speaking fear as an example. So I'd close my eyes and I'd say, what is it that I'm worried about regarding public speaking? I just ask my mind that question. One thought pops up. Well, what if everyone criticizes me? What if everyone hates this? What if everyone, let all the thoughts pop up, right? And then here's the key. Don't try to change them, right? And once all these negative thoughts pop up around something that's limiting you, right? The next question to ask yourself is, great, how much value are these thoughts causing for me? Right? So, I mean, this is like part, cognitive behavioral therapy in some capacity. How much value is the thought of what if everyone points and laughs at me while I speak? What value does that provide to my life? So the goal is to direct your mind towards what's causing you resistance, step one. And step two, Ask yourself, how much value is this negative thought producing to your life? What value? What value does asking yourself, what if everyone points and laughs at me and hates my speech, what value does that provide? It doesn't provide any value, right? There's no productive, solution-oriented action you can take on a thought like that because you're pigeonholing yourself. You're literally asking yourself a what if X negative thing happens. You're pigeonholing yourself to a negative answer. Negative question produce negative answer. So the key is to switch negative questions into positive questions, right? What if this speech goes right and everyone applauds me, right? Another thing is to just, once your body realizes which thoughts you recurringly have that are unproductive and unvaluable, naturally the body will discard of it like a virus. But you first have to allow the body to become aware of the fact that it is a virus. This thought is a virus, and this virus must be cleansed, right? So that same principle of allowing the body to clear out waste and regenerate new applies to our own thoughts. It applies to, if you have financial struggles, like what if I run out of money this month? What if I run out of money soon? Great. Hey, what about that thought is productive? Nothing. So let's make it a productive thought. What can I do to double my income? Is that a productive thought? Can you see the difference in the productivity of these two thinking patterns? What can I do to double my income? That's one chain of thinking. And the second chain of thinking is, what if I run out of money? Which thought pattern is more productive? Pretty damn simple. It doesn't take rocket science for you to know the answer to that question, right? That's how beautiful the body's ability to heal is as soon as you can stump yourself as to proving to yourself that some of the unproductive thoughts you have, they don't have a place. They're not productive. And there's way more productive chains of thinking out there. As soon as you show your mind this, your mind will naturally correct itself. And the next time that unproductive thought pops up, subconsciously your mind will go, oh, yeah, we already established that's not valuable. We already established that's unproductive. We already established that thought's not going to help me. So we're going to focus on this thought, right? And notice we're not resisting the negative thought, because the big thing is, imagine if my knee, like the PRP thing, imagine if it constantly created a permanent inflammation in my knee when I got PRP injected in my knee, right? Would that be good to have a permanently inflamed knee for the rest of my life? No, right? We fight the virus first. We fight the ailment first, right? And then once we've identified what the virus is, we let go, right? And that same thing has to happen, and healing begins, right? That same thing has to happen psychologically as well. So I just think, like, if the body can heal itself, the mind can heal itself, right? Because if you think about it, the mind is a byproduct of the body, right? The body is comprised of carbon, right? The thinking patterns that occur in the mind would not occur if there was no body, if there was no matter, right? So if the formula that our body's matter follows is very clear, then the formula that our mind follows is also clear, right? Because our mind is made from the same matter, right? Thoughts are produced from matter. You can't have thoughts without matter, right? At least we have no proof of it. And if the same formula that allows your body to heal itself can be applied to the mind healing itself, then there's no excuse to get anything less than what you want out of your life. There's no excuse, right? The only excuse is whether or not you're going to embrace the body's ability to heal itself. So yeah, super exciting journey. Hope you got value from this. Please, 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 if you're experiencing any pain in your body physically, please get an MRI. I was telling my business partner this, like he's had this back pain for a while and he never got an MRI, but he immediately went to physical therapists and all these other things to try and fix the issue, right? But he never got a formal diagnosis. He never actually got a full MRI scan of the part of his body that's causing pain. That is the first step, right? Because without knowing the facts of what's going on in that part of your body, it's extremely hard to know what to fix. So you got to get an MRI. Once you get an MRI, get that interpreted by, orthopedic or a traditional medical person. But then immediately after you get the diagnosis from the medical person, I want you to upload their notes. Most doctors have a online portal where you can see all the physician's notes written up. You can upload your MRI plus the physician's notes into ChatGPT, and then you can start experimenting with alternative health approaches, right? How could I use peptides, PRP, and stem cell therapy to regenerate this issue without surgery, or to get the same or a better long-term outcome without getting under the knife or using steroids or things that kill the healing environment in that joint. So, strongly urge that you look into this world. So many people are getting joint replacements nowadays. And it's really just a lack of information that's causing this, because most of your joint tissue can be regenerated, but you have to start now. So that's all I got. See you in the next episode. Stay great. If you found value in this podcast, here's one way I can help your firm right now. First, you can get our new book, Law Firm Growth Accelerator. It's everything we've learned over 10 plus years helping lawyers build thriving, profitable firms. The strategies that you'll get in this book work for any practice area and any revenue level. You can get the audiobook and ebook 100% free, or just cover the shipping and we'll send you the physical copy to you in addition to the audio and ebook. Go to smbteam.com/book to get your copy.